Broadcasting live from the Business Radio X studios in Atlanta, Georgia, it's time for Atlanta Business Radio, spotlighting the city's best businesses and the people who lead them.
And we are back, broadcasting live from the Georgia State University Entrepreneurship and Innovation Institute. Lee, we've hit the home stretch, man. We got the headliners with us here in episode 4, huh?
The innovators.
This is going to be a lot of fun. First up in this episode, please join me in welcoming to the broadcast Chief Innovation Officer with Georgia State University, Mr. Phil Ventimiglia. How are you, man?
I'm doing very well. Thanks for having me.
Well, Phil, before we get too far into things, tell us about being Chief Innovation Officer. What does that job entail?
Sure. So a little over 5 years ago, my role was created to really drive what the future of the university is in this digitally connected 21st century world. So like a lot of industries, and I'm sure you're talking about this with other innovators, higher ed has been and is being disrupted by technology. And so my role is responsibility for all the technology on the campus, but more than that is to go help drive the strategy and execution for how higher education is changing because of those disruptions in technology.
So now, when you start this job, how do you even begin? Like, do you have to get the lay of the land to see where they are as an organization and then to kind of marry what's happening around the world and seeing how you can get them going?
Absolutely. So I had some experience creating a school in Hyderabad, India, when I lived there with my family a couple of years ago, and to go and enable the learning experience for them, we leveraged a lot of technology, a lot of we call hybridization, both in class and online technology. So I had enough to be dangerous, but the most important tool in any sort of innovation initiative, especially in the beginning, is a really comfortable set of shoes. And so a lot of times walking around downtown Atlanta and the Georgia State campus, talking to a lot of the folks around campus about what's going on, how are they thinking about the future of teaching and learning, how are they thinking about the future of the research they're doing, and how is technology enabling that, or how can technology help them solve problems. And in my experience in innovation, a lot of the great ideas, they already exist. It's about listening to them, synthesizing them, and then helping them come to fruition. And so that's really what I spent the first couple months doing, is spending a lot of time wearing through a really uncomfortable pair of shoes, finding some really great soft-soled shoes, and spending a lot of time on the campus.
Now, are you finding that just the concept of a university and a campus, those are kind of moving targets nowadays? Like, it isn't, maybe a campus isn't what it used to be, where you would go to some, rural setting and then it would be by itself and there'd be a college town. And now, like a Georgia State University, it's beyond even the walls of Atlanta.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And Georgia State is an urban university, like you mentioned. So there are no physical walls. Like, where does the university start? Where does it end? And now via technology, that becomes even more blurred because, we're enabling things like simulcast classrooms where you can have students sitting in the classroom physically, or they could be sitting in a library. They could be sitting in their dorm room and still participating just as if they were there physically. So those lines are blurring, particularly for an urban campus like ourselves.
Now, are you finding from a leadership standpoint, the professors even, how are they able to leverage this digital world, and the skills to teach in a classroom might be different than this teach via, the internet or Skype or one of these kind of virtual settings?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we have a lot of faculties, as you'd imagine, especially the new faculty that have grown up with technology. And so they come to the university expecting to go and leverage technology and the integration of technology into their classes and their learning environments. And so we work with them quite heavily in all of the initiatives that we have. And we have an organization called our Center for Excellence of Teaching and Learning that provides all of the resources that they would need to go and take advantage of redesigning their classes, driving new initiatives, and doing everything from recording classes, all the software that they would need, instructional design, all the learning spaces. And one of the first initiatives that we really took up on the campus was an initiative on digital literacy. Through that, walking around campus and doing a lot of just interviews and listening, what I found is that there was this big gap in terms of the students' skills in digital technologies, which was a little bit of a conundrum because we all assumed, and it is true, that this generation of students have been born with a cell phone in their hand, from the day they came out of the womb. But that doesn't mean that they have all the skills needed to actually leverage that technology in an academic and then a professional setting. And so we found that there was this disconnect between what the expectation of the faculty was and some of the skills that our students had. And so we started an initiative to go drive digital literacy skills into the core curriculum in conjunction with the faculty, right? We brought them into that process. It came out of discussions with them and really rethought what is digital literacy. And, what it's not is teaching PowerPoint and Excel. What it is how do we prepare students to leverage all the digital tools that are available to them, and then not only know how to use them, but actually put them together in new ways to create solutions to the problems they have.
Now, is part of the gap that because these kind of digital natives have been using this technology, there's a lot of shorthand that they use and they're communicating with their friends in a certain manner that maybe doesn't translate to the professional world?
In a way, the way I like to describe it is for someone who's of a different generation, unfortunately, like myself, we used to talk about the consumerization of technology, right? And that we were introduced to technology primarily in the workplace and in the classroom. And then we had to figure out, well, how do we use this Facebook thing, in our personal lives? What does that really do? And so there's a lot of time in the technology field talking about the consumerization of technology. Well, we have the reverse of that with these digital natives. They've always known technology from a consumer standpoint, but the idea of using it in a professional setting to use it for work is a little bit new. And sort of a funny but sort of real example is, a student that very, very quickly can go figure out how to find on social media that person that they met at the bar or the club the night before. They are great at doing that type of research, but asking them to go do academically sound research, that's just not native to them. That's something they haven't done before. And so we can't just expect them, to know how to go and filter out, true academic research online. And so those are the type of skills we want to go enable them to learn and be able to, again, create digital solutions to real world problems.
So now how does that fit into the Entrepreneurship and Innovation Institute?
So one of the ways that to make that effective is you drive it into the curriculum, but then you really want to have projects, right? Experiential learning, right? Working on real life projects and doing that to go and create those solutions, drive innovations. And so the Entrepreneurship and Innovation Institute is one area of experiential learning. So one of the things that's really important and we're driving in conjunction with digital literacy is experiential learning and project-based learning opportunities on the campus. And so entrepreneurship, clearly, a big avenue for experiential learning. And working on real projects. So that's one of the big opportunities for that type of learning. There's others, such as an initiative that we're starting this fall, which we've named EPIC, which stands for Experiential Project-Based Interdisciplinary Curriculum, where we'll be embedding real life projects into the freshman curriculum that they can go work on with a team of students. And then the goal of that those projects could then continue over the course of their college career, culminating in a research project in their senior year.
So now who'd you bring with you today?
So I brought Tiffany Green-Abdullah from our Center for Excellence in Teaching and Learning. And Tiffany, in the early days after I finished that listening tour and wanted to embark on this crazy idea to introduce digital literacy into the core curriculum and do a pilot on it, I said I needed someone who's going to be able to lead that and drive that project. And I voluntold Tiffany to lead.
That's called leadership.
Yes, yeah, exactly. It's a great management technique. To come help me and project manage and drive the initial initiative. And Tiffany has a background in instructional design. She was in our project management team within the technology organization, but her true love is in teaching and learning, instructional design, and really enabling students to be successful. And so she embarked on that journey with me. It was very, very successful. And eventually, that morphed into her current role where she is, director of, and I'll let her introduce the entire title because I'm sure I'll screw it up. But basically director of student communities and involvement, and is driving a variety of activities to really enable experiential learning and digital literacy amongst our student body. Welcome, Tiffany.
Thank you for having me.
So talk a little bit about your background before we get into the specifics of this.
Sure. Well, you want to go to college? Like I went to Vanderbilt in Nashville.
Elementary school. I thought we'd start there.
I grew up in Chicago, but I went to Vanderbilt, undergrad degree in economics, and worked in sales for a few years, and got into computer training sales, which really kind of opened the door for me to the sort of digital technology world. And then moved around to a couple of cities, but I started here at Georgia State in project management office.
So you were working here at Georgia State, or you didn't go back to school here?
Well, no, I'm in school here now. But yeah, I went back to Vanderbilt after a couple of years and got a master's in education and technology. I was the first person in that major. Because it didn't really exist. This was like 1999.
Before it was cool.
Before it was cool. So then, moved around to Minneapolis and moved to Atlanta about 10 years ago.
For a job?
No, I moved here. I was consulting, so I was I could live anywhere.
Right.
And it was cold in Minneapolis.
Did you notice that?
Yes. 7 years was enough.
Right.
So moved here, but it was right during the recession. And networked my way around and got some consulting gigs and had a baby. And when the baby was about a year old, I was like, okay, I need a job, and applied to Georgia State. And it was really the first job that I ever actually applied to and got the job, because most of my jobs were conversations.
Right. So now when Phil said this Digital Learners to Leaders program, what was your vision of that?
Well, initially, I worked as the project manager on the digital literacy initiative when Phil first started at Georgia State about 5 years ago. And that was right, I think at the same time we were starting the consolidation with Perimeter. So I was in the PMO, and we had one department, and I don't even want to get into all the names because we're the Center for Excellence in Teaching and Learning. But my direct supervisor, Dr. Julian Allen, he was, asked me to be part of this project, because I told him, look, as Phil's developing projects, I want to work with students. I want to do more than just the IT projects, which were great, but I was already a few years into those. So we started working on the DLI, Digital Literacy Initiative, and the Perimeter, the whole consolidation with Perimeter was going on. So that was like 1,000
that
projects.
That wasn't a little thing.
That was
a big
huge.
thing.
That was huge. So CETO was created, and so I sort of took the DLI as sort of a carryover project, and then developed a team within CETO. Learning community development. And
then, what was your vision of putting your stamp on things?
Well, I mean, when Julian and Phil were creating CETO, I was really looking for gaps. And that was sort of my premise, where they've got all these teams, but where can I fit in? And Julian was like, what do you want to do? And I'm like, well, I've always been into community development. And I love learning and technology. So let me figure out
how to marry all those together.
How to marry them all together and put a plan together and pitch that to Julian and Phil. And that was about 4 years ago.
And then, so where are you at now with this?
So now we are 4 years down the road. We've had some really successful grant projects. So Digital Learners to Leaders is one of those grant projects. We're funded by the Silicon Valley Community Foundation through Cisco Social Responsibility. We are 2 years into that grant, so we'll be starting our third cohort this fall in about a month. So we're just getting ready and trying to build the program, scale it, and really take the program and make it into a university level course so that it could be offered.
So that's the ultimate goal?
I think so. I think to make it a course so that, we're not dependent on grants to keep it going, because it's been really successful. Annette is here as one of the students, who've participated. You've interviewed another one of our students, Nicole Toole. So we want to see it grow.
And then how are you defining success? What are you high-fiving each other at the end of the day with this?
I think success is having students come out of the program confident with the tools to sort of bridge this college to career experience and be able to replicate what we taught them and do it over and over and over again. So that's like design thinking, being able to solve a problem.
Mm-hmm. Do you find that to be a big gap?
I do. I think the college to career is a big gap for students. You know, they take courses and then they're trying to get jobs, but they don't always know, you know, how to talk about themselves, how to market themselves, how to build a portfolio to show like what they really know.
And then to demonstrate it in a digital manner? Is that?
Yeah, that's definitely important. As Phil spoke about the sort of being a consumer versus a producer.
Right,
we
a
want
creator.
them.
You need more creators than consumers.
Exactly. We need them to be on the other side developing those tools and developing those technologies, especially given, you know, who our population of students are at Georgia State University and how successful we've been closing the achievement gap and, you know, between the different races of students, white students, black students, female students, so
refugee students
as well, Latino students. So we don't have those gaps here. Right. So it's important that, you know, those students have the skills to build, to be builders. And
then who did you bring with you?
I brought Annette Owusu, right? I'm going to make sure I say it right. Annette Owusu. And Annette's a great story because she went through Digital Learners to Leaders twice.
She liked it so much?
Yes. She came back for more pain. But she was a learner. So we have two roles in the program. Learners are just, you know, participants in the program, and we have leaders. And so they're essentially like a project manager of a team of college students.
But it's built from within. So the leaders come from the learners?
Not necessarily. Some leaders apply and just become leaders just based on their skill set. You know, if we feel that they're strong, they can hold a team together and they can really, you know, see it through. Then, you know, many students came in just as leaders. We started with 5 students originally, but she was a learner, and then came back in a second cohort to become a leader.
So Annette, tell us about your journey here.
So I started out actually as a biology major. So I was doing bio and I completely hated it.
So in high school, you thought this was...
I was the president of the healthcare club. Yes.
So that was in your head, you thought, this is where I'm going to be.
As a first generation Ghanaian American, my parents told me at the age of 10,
I was
going to be an anesthesiologist.
Oh, so they already mapped this out for you.
I knew exactly what I was going to do, but actually when I was in college doing it, I hated it. I shadowed doctors. I figured out I hated needles, blood, all of it.
So how was that conversation with your parents like?
It's still in the works.
We're working through that.
We're still working.
Well, now you're getting the tools from this program, right?
Yes, they see that I'm happier and I'm actually doing more things. So they're more okay with it, but they still want me to go back to be a doctor.
So that was a hard conversation.
A very hard one. Very hard. As an African parent, you want your child to be a doctor, lawyer, engineer, and that kind of doesn't fit following your dreams. And so.
Right. So America kind of messed you up a little bit there.
It's okay. Now I'm happy. So it's all good.
So now, how'd you find out about this program?
So I just got an email randomly.
Randomly?
Yes. And I was so complacent with being in this cycle of biology home, crying myself to sleep.
Right.
So when I saw Digital Leaders to Learners and I saw that they were willing to teach young minorities about technology, I was like, okay, why not?
Well, what part of that resonated with you? What part of that story kind of stuck?
I've always had a niche for technology. I was always good at fixing things, working on the computer, but I never wanted to be like a developer, and that's all I knew about technology.
Right.
So when I heard about different avenues in technology, I went for it.
It didn't occur to you prior?
No, I didn't know anything about other than developing.
And then you hear about, so I guess you go to a meeting or you went to
applied.
A website? You just went for
applied.
it? Wow. So you took action. You didn't just think about it. You went for it.
Yeah. I was applying, looking for an organization to join, and I just saw DLL and I was like, okay, why not? I don't know. Maybe it was God telling me. But yeah, I just applied.
Okay, so you go. So first, was there a meeting or an event or something?
So we did have the first cohort, and I didn't know anything about technology, so I was just sitting there by myself, and I was on a team.
You didn't know it? You weren't having any friends?
I didn't have any friends. I just went, and I was on a team, and my team lead was Joel, and he was so amped about virtual reality, and I never really heard of virtual reality.
Right.
And it was amazing. I was just mind blown of virtual reality, different aspects of technology, project management. I just didn't know. And my eyes were open to a whole different world.
And then what happened from there?
So after learning about virtual reality.
How long were you learning?
I was learning for one course, which was just one semester.
A whole semester then?
Yeah, for that
this
semester.
This was one class in your curriculum?
Well, it wasn't a class. We had certain sprints on Saturdays that we
this was extracurricular?
Yeah, so within our own time, it was like a team of 8, we would have to put time in our schedule and meet with each other on campus, in the library.
Is this a meeting you were looking forward to or dreading?
No, I was never dreading it because it was cool being in a studio, a virtual reality studio where they have different innovators that create different things like Avatar.
But you were doing stuff you never even considered in your life.
But it was so cool.
So you got caught up in it.
Yeah, I got caught up in it, and I was willing to learn anything about it. So I learned some C#. I learned how to work, build environments in Unreal Engine, and I was still a biology major at that time, developing these things. So we created a virtual reality simulation that taught young adults financial literacy, because we know that college students, we know nothing about credit scores, saving, and that was a big.
So that resonated. That mission resonated with you,
exactly,
right?
Yes.
And you're like, okay, I can help people.
Yes. And I knew that in that aspect, or within that project, I can give my input, and they
you're
can
being heard.
Yes, and they can teach me a little bit about virtual reality as well. So
and then you were kind of a prospect for this service too, right?
Yes.
You can relate to it.
Yes, exactly.
You're going through the same thing.
Exactly. So
and then, awesome. So how'd Tiffany do?
Tiffany was awesome. She is awesome.
What about Phil? Did you know him?
I didn't know him, but I knew he was a big deal.
Okay. Everybody knew that. So now, so you went through it that one time. Mm-hmm. And then what was the end point? Like, did you actually make something?
Yes, we did. We came up with a whole simulation. We presented it at the end of our presentation. We had a group hug, and we were in tears.
You're
almost
crying, right?
Yes, because it was a big project, and we executed, and it came out beautiful.
And you created something from nothing.
Yes, exactly.
Right?
It was awesome.
That's kind of cool, huh?
Yeah, and it was our names on it. We were the creators, and we were planning to take it as far as we can.
So what'd your parents think of that?
My parents are like, what's virtual reality? That's nice.
Not impressed.
Not impressed.
Right. And you're like, this is really cool.
Yeah, they could tell that I really loved it, but they were not impressed at the moment.
Right, not yet. So then what made you do this again?
So while I was in my team, I was almost like the mom of the group. I was, are you good? Do you need help with anything? Even though sometimes I couldn't really help, I was always making sure everyone was on track and that things were going well.
Because you wanted it to go well.
Of course.
Well, not of course. There's plenty of people that are just going along for the ride.
There will be slackers, but I was there to put them in place and make sure that we're on track.
Done. Right.
Yes. So with that experience, or with that going through that, I knew that I could possibly be a leader, and I could probably make a good one, hopefully.
So then at that point, you realized that you were leading, right?
Yes.
But you wanted kind of more to formalize the leadership and learn more about how to be a good leader.
Yes, and through that court, I learned about project management. So it was like, okay, I think I like this. I think this is what I'm doing right now.
Right. So I am managing this project. So then that changed the track of maybe where you were in your education.
Yes, I had a mid-college crisis.
Well, no, entrepreneurs call that pivoting. So you pivoted.
Yes, major.
And then, so now at this point, you're like, I'm going to kind of reassess where I'm at. And then now I'm going to maybe go in a different direction. And now this is where the parents' hard conversation came in. Right.
I kind of dragged my feet a bit to.
So you started taking classes, or you weren't even sneaking in extra project management?
Yeah, I started taking more like a technology class. I took intro to information technology, And I was like, okay, I really
can
could
do
do this.
Right.
And I try to trick myself. Maybe I want to do IT healthcare,
Right.
informatics. And I slowly started talking to my parents more about the organization. They're like, okay, can you make money from this? And like, how is this going to work out? So, eventually I just took that leap of faith and changed my major. And now I'm a computer information systems major.
And then, so this DLL was important part of this whole evolution.
Tremendous. The pivot. It was the reason why. If I never was in DLL, I would have stuck through and been a biology major and
be miserable.
Yes, exactly.
So what do you think of that impact, Tiffany?
I'm kind of having chills. I mean, you hope when you build something that it will work, because a lot of what we're doing it's grounded in research. I'm a scholar, et cetera, and have some experience also advising a technology student organization called Panther Hackers. But many of the sort of pieces and parts of DLL had some origins in just watching and observing those students in Panther Hackers, but they are student orgs, so you can't really tell them what to do.
Right.
You can suggest strongly,
I think it's called leadership,
right? But I really wanted to have a program where I knew I could put students through certain paces to get the outcome to sort of merge that gap between college to career, to really have a focus on community, that they have to create a digital tool that impacts a social or community issue. And, when we wrote the grant, we wrote it in that, we'd have these companies that we work with and they'd offer challenges, but just the timing was sort of out of sync. So we were like, well, let's just let the students figure it out.
Hey,
let's hope it works.
Right.
And it did. I mean, her team with Joel Mack was the leader of that team, and they created financial VR reality. And now Joel is all big time in CMII, and he's doing films, and he's this motion capture expert. I mean, he's just gone and done so many incredible things as well. So, just to see their impact and to hear them say it's very affirming.
Now, Phil, is that your vision as a chief innovation officer? Isn't this the outcome you desire, right? You want to give them kind of the space and the autonomy and use the resources that you all provide.
Absolutely. Our key goal as a university overall is student success. One of the great things, and you hear this in Annette's story, is, it's not a metric, a number on a piece of paper, when you can see the actual results that students are having and the success that they're having and how it's impacting their lives and the lives of their families and the loved ones. There's nothing more rewarding than that, right? And so many people talk about meaningful work, but this is, in my career, the most meaningful work I've ever done.
Right. Because you're seeing the impact.
Absolutely. The only thing that I really don't like is I've been here 5 years and I've gotten older, but the students haven't.
Well, the thing you're really not going to like is when you're going to have to talk to Annette's parents.
Yeah.
She's doing it. What she's doing is okay.
I think I can handle it.
All right. So you can now call him.
Yes, I'll direct him right over.
So now what's next? How do you see this thing progressing?
Well, we are about to start our interviews for our leaders for this third cohort. So our applications for leaders ended last Friday, and learners stay open till I think the 21st or something like that. So we'll be interviewing probably 30 different students, to figure out the 5 that will be leaders for this next cohort. We're also in the process of writing grants, to expand the program, to do an evaluation, solid research, study of the program to see why it's successful. Looking at we also have a summer camp. So we did a week-long summer camp with 65 middle school and high school students.
Start them young, right?
Yes, you have to. I mean, we had a pipeline, right? So we did the summer camp. So we're going to expand that, and we also want to create a teacher institute because, to really impact digital literacy, say in the city, if teachers don't know anything and have no digital literacy, then
it's gonna be hard.
They can't teach it.
Right.
So we basically want to put them through the same program we put the students through. They make a project and then they come back as a second layer and work on curriculum development. So we're writing a grant for that.
Now, Annette, any advice for the students? Like, how would you pitch this to students to get involved in this program?
So students that are starting out in CIS, I think is a great avenue to get internships. So if most people or most students at Georgia State, internships, since we're in the city, that's what everyone's trying to go towards. So this organization looks great on your resume. It teaches you more than you'll learn in the classroom because you're actually working on projects and you have something to show forth. So if you want something to show forth to get those jobs and get those internships, I would join DLL.
But also, what about the pitch to people who aren't in a technology or digital kind of major? There's still a place for this organization, right?
Definitely. So technology is everywhere and is in every aspect of the world, like you said. So our kids have cell phones in their hand.
That's right. They're already using the stuff.
Exactly. So if you learn more about it, you'll be able to be in any role, in any environment.
And so that's the important part to consider is it's not just coders.
No, not at all.
Technology is much broader than that.
Way broader.
And the skills that you have might fit.
Exactly.
But just open your mind to it and learn about it.
Exactly. There's always room to learn. And with that blend of technology and those specialized other majors that are out there, it'll be great.
Tiffany, how many majors do we have represented in DLL right now?
In the last cohort, we had 33.
Wow. So it's touching everywhere.
Yeah. Exactly, to your point.
Mm-hmm.
So, Phil, if somebody wanted to learn more, or Tiffany, who's the appropriate person to kind of give the coordinates of if they want to get involved in the program?
Sure. Our website is innovation.gsu.edu/DLL for Digital Learners to Leaders. You can Google us and we're all over social. So everywhere.
It's DLL or
DLL.
Digital Learners to Leaders.
Mm-hmm.
That's the name of the program. And then if somebody wanted to get a hold of you, the coordinates for you, is it LinkedIn?
I'm on LinkedIn is great. Use it a lot. Tiffany Green-Abdullah on LinkedIn. And yeah.
And then Phil, I know you don't want people to get a hold of you, right?
No, actually, the website that Tiffany mentioned, innovation.gsu.edu, is the website for my organization. My blog is there, my contact information. You can email me directly through that link. And so, no, it's all publicly available.
All right. And then Annette, if somebody wants to hire you or give you an internship, where can they find you?
They can find me on LinkedIn, Annette Owusu. Good
stuff. Well, thank you all for sharing your story. It's important work that you're doing.
Thank you.
All right. This is Lee Cantor for Stone Payton. We will see you all next time on GSU ENI Radio.